Hello, and welcome to my second podcast. I recently released my video essay on Aalavandhan and before that Dhaayam, and the response has been phenomenal. You guys, if you have been following me on all my social media, you might know that I consider quitting moving images after doing this for almost 2 years. I started this channel with some really big and some might call it really unreasonable expectations. And when I didn't see this channel reach the goal I wanted it to reach within those said 2 years, I was a little bit disappointed. And so I went into some deep introspection. And this wasn't out of a moment of frustration. This has been going through my mind for quite a while. And I decided to leave it up to you guys to give me a reason to stay and do this. So I posted about this on my social media. And I should say that the response to that was quite surprising. That people actually wanted me to stay. That wasn't the surprising part. It was how much they were willing to do to support this channel, to let me do videos the way I want to and keep doing this. That was the surprising part for me. Many came forward with suggestions. Many came forward with even collaboration ideas. And I'm really grateful for all that. That gave me, if you call a second wind, to give this a shot one more time, because if you watched my Dhaayam video, you would know that this was something really new for me, and something really new in the whole video essay platform, both nationally and internationally. I follow other foreign channels too, and I've never seen a channel attempt something in the presentation of video essay, something that we try to do with Dhaayam. And to know that you are giving something of a higher quality, but not seeing the response that you would like it to get, was sort of disappointing. I've had people come and tell me that this is something that I'm doing for myself, and I shouldn't expect views or comments or likes or whatever, and I should just the work is the reward, and I shouldn't expect all these other material things, if you will. But let me tell you this. Moving images was started 2 years ago as a way for me to, one, share my geeky knowledge or weird theories about the Tamil movies. The movies I grew up with. And it was a tough time, as I've told in many places before, that this was the time where reviewers, Tamil film reviewers, were bashing Tamil films left and right, and we were losing the respect that even from our own audience. And that was something that didn't sit with me really well. So I thought that if I'm going to do something, it's going to be film appreciation. Remind us all the great films that we have, and remind us why they are great. And that's how the channel was started. That was the general idea, but the real reason that I started the channel was also to cope with anxiety. I was just finishing my PhD. I just graduated, and I didn't know what to do with my life. I couldn't visit India. I still can't visit India. I work here in the US, and due to various work visa issues. Let's not get into that. But the point is, I haven't been able to visit India for 3 years now, and it's actually kind of sad, and it's always something that's on my mind. I would love to visit India. I've always visited India at least once every year, but I haven't been able to do that in the past 3 years. And when you're away from home, you may miss all the good and the bad things, and I missed a couple of things here and there. So those were tough times. And to cope with my anxiety, I started this little channel. And the response so far was phenomenal. I shouldn't lie. It was phenomenal. It kept me going every month, every week. I would keep looking forward to what I can do next, how I can push the envelope a little bit further with each video. And that's all you guys. You made me do that, and I'm grateful. But somewhere within that time span, I got really great aspirations. I wanted to see more come out of this channel. I wanted to see it reach heights that other channels couldn't. And that wasn't happening, so it was a little bit of frustration. But coming back to people telling me that I should do this channel only for myself and not for the views, I don't believe in that. I don't subscribe to that, because it's a two-way street. I come up with ideas. I put whatever time I have after I do my work as a research scientist, come back home, work during the weekends, stay awake for long hours, and I work really hard. I have a small team that helps me with it, but most of the work falls on me. The team, they try to help me in whatever way they can, but me being me, I don't let people help me with the editing part. So that's all on me. So after all this work, it is nice to see when it gets recognized. And that is what keeps me going. So when I see good response to a video, a good response here doesn't mean just the number of views. No. If you take a look at the comment section in any of my videos, this is something I'm really proud of the community we have built here. The videos I post don't get your normal, usual YouTube video type comments. If any other video I've seen, the comment section is usually cancer. You don't want to go there. But I'm really proud to see that in my videos, all the comments contribute to the video in one way or the other. It is done by people who understand the art, who understand the video, and they try to contribute, make it even better. So I would say the videos I post are only the starting point. The real discussion starts in the comments. And that is something I'm immensely proud of. And so it is those things that keeps me going, that keeps me thinking what I can do better next time. So, like I said, it's a two-way street. I make videos, you guys recognize it, comment on it, appreciate it, criticize it constructively, and that makes me want to do bigger and better things. So that was my reason, and you guys gave me a reason to stay, apparently. And so that was how Hey Ram video came about. And right after that, I was pumped to do another video, and that's how Aalavandhan came about. And this time I made sure that I took adequate rest between editing, because I had two of my friends really talk me out of stressing myself over the videos, because when I make those videos, I'm in a different zone. I don't sleep that much. I don't eat that much. It wasn't healthy. And so this time they made sure that I stick to a good, healthy plan where I take my time making the video, and I also take time to take care of myself, and I'm very thankful to them for that. So yeah, Aalavandhan should have come in 3 weeks. It came in 4 weeks, which I'm not even sorry about. The 1 extra week gave me enough time to promote the video, and also to make sure that every little thing was perfect, and also it gave me time to take care of myself. So if in the future, if you see only one video a month, please understand that I don't take breaks in between videos. After I'm done with one video, I'm already working on the next. But the process itself takes that long. I've seen many comments asking people to post more videos. I've even had comments saying that I should post a video every day, which if I could, I would be God. But no, so these videos, they take time to make. And to help you understand a little bit, I'm going to talk about briefly about my whole video making process. Can't speak today. Towards the end of this video. So that was my little rant about how the last 2 videos came about, and how I'm really thankful about and grateful about the response I got for those videos, and also to say that I'm not going to stop anytime soon. You guys have given me enough reason to continue doing this, so expect bigger and better things from this channel. And if you can, please do subscribe and share my videos to let this channel grow more and more. That's all I ask. Okay, coming back to the main attraction of today's podcast, Dhaayam. If you didn't know this, Dhaayam is the book Aalavandhan, the movie is based on. It was written by Kamal Hassan in 1980s. And it came out in a magazine, a now defunct magazine called Idayam Pesigiradu, for 37 weeks. So you have 37 chapters. And if you want to read the book, I've left a description. I've left a link in the description below for the book. So go ahead and read it. But I'm also going to talk about some key points that I found interesting, the differences between the book and the film, and how I see it. So the following might have like minor spoilers, but I won't take away the experience of you discovering it on your own by reading the book and watching the movie if you haven't. So yeah, this is Dhaayam versus Aalavandhan, if you will. But before that, I have to tell briefly how I found this book. Finding this book is not easy. I've been looking for this book even before I decided to make a video essay on it. Even before I even started moving images, I've been searching for this book for a very, very long time. And fortunately, this time I had more people around me who could help me. A special thanks to a dear friend, Apurva. She had to travel all the way from Kumbakonam to Chennai. She went to Kanimara Library, asked around if they had a copy of the book, which they didn't, and then she went to Kamal's Alvarpet office, wrote a letter on behalf of me, requesting them a copy of the book. And then she even went to Suresh Krishna, the director of Aalavandhan's house, met his father, and asked for the book. We didn't get the book, but that effort needs to be thanked. And then how I found the book, that was an interesting story. Another friend of mine posted on Facebook that he too is looking for the book, and I told him what I know about the book so far, as in which magazine it was published, which year, how many chapters, and so on and so forth, and also told him where I was in finding the book at that point. And then he introduced me to a fellow Kamal fan, and I got to talking with him, and apparently he had a copy of it. So I had I had my sister-in-law pick up the book from his home and make a copy for me, scan it and send it to me. And this person who lent me the book, Mr. Shivakumar, he was really gracious enough to even let me have the original copy, because he has two. Imagine that. Finding one copy is hard enough, and he has two copies of it. And this is not a novel. This is not a novel that you can buy off the bookstore. It was not a novel that was even published as a novel. It came as a story series on Idayam Pesigiradu for 37 weeks. So the only copies that you can have is if you collect each of those chapters every week, tear it off from the magazine and compile them on your own. That's how hard finding this book is. And he has two of them, which is amazing. So now I have one of those rare original copies of Dhaayam, and I thought it would be only fair for me to share the scanned copy for all of you to read and sort of appreciate the writer that is Kamal Haasan, because he wrote it when he was, I would say, about 30 years of age, and I'm here, I'm 29 now, I'm reading this, so I can relate kind of on how his whole thought process was and how different those times were and how path-breaking this story was. And I can also see why K. Balachandar was reluctant on directing this movie when Kamal took this story to him and asked him to direct it. K. Balachandar didn't want to make this film because he thought that it was a little bit too advanced for that time. It has a lot of sex scenes and really violent killings in it. So yeah, so that's the little story on how I got it, and here's my gift to you guys. So head on over to that link and go ahead and read the novel when you can. So coming back to the little differences I found between the book and the film. I think off the start, the major character differences here is you have Nandu and Vijay. Nandu, the whole backstory is kind of similar in this case, but the character of Nandu is the major difference between the book and the film. Nandu in the film, as we know, is smart, but for the most part, we see him as this childish man who breaks into violence at a drop of a coin, literally. But his mind is very innocent, very childish, and he does it out of good intentions. Though he goes on a killing spree, he does it to save his brother. That is so at the end of this film, he even asks for sorry, and you kind of feel sorry for Nandu. He becomes this sympathetic character. The book Nandu is pure evil. He is highly intelligent, highly I would say he has this. He is highly delusional. He thinks that he is God. Well, contrastingly, the film Nandu thinks that he is half God and half beast. But the book Nandu is on a different league of his own. He doesn't make mistakes. He plans to get out of that jail for 6 years. And the way he plans it is a treat to read. It is amazing. It is amazing to see how he planned it for 6 years to get out of that prison, and he goes on a killing spree for himself. It was all planned out. He doesn't kill anyone accidentally or out of rage. He kills them because he wants to, and he plans on how to kill each of his victims. He stalks them, he learns about them, and he does it in a very clinical and precise way. And that's the whole scary thing about Nandu from the book. He's really scary. If you thought Nandu from the movie was scary, you haven't seen this version of him. He's highly calculative. He doesn't even care about Vijay. That's the thing. He doesn't. He thinks that Vijay is far inferior to him in terms of IQ, in terms of physical attributes, and he doesn't even care about him until Vijay gets in his business and tries to catch him. And speaking of Vijay from the book is actually also quite different from the one in the movie. Here, Vijay tries to marry the Tejaswini of this book. Here in the book, she's called Abita. And Abita, the interesting thing is that she's a widow, and Vijay remarries her. And that's about the biggest difference between the book and the movie, if you will. Abita here is not pregnant. Vijay just goes to the prison to tell Nandu that he's going to get married, and that doesn't make Nandu decide to break out. That has nothing to do with it. He just listens. He advises Vijay to not get married, but Vijay doesn't listen. So that's that. And then Nandu gets out of prison, goes on a killing spree, and that's how the whole story goes. So I will leave it up to you guys to explore more. But coming back to Vijay's character and Nandu's, for that matter, the little mind game they played towards the end of that movie is amazing. I sincerely wish that they could have shown that in the movie. In the movie, Vijay does hint that he too can think like Nandu, and then he predicts that for all we know, Nandu could be standing outside listening to our conversation, and there he is. Those are just glimpses. In here, the brothers actually... there is actually a beautiful paragraph where they actually think like the other person, and it's so Nandu is a chess player, a gifted chess player, and Vijay is a national level chess player, and the climax itself is a game of chess. Nandu predicts that Vijay would make a certain move, and Vijay predicts that Nandu would predict that he would make a certain move, and thus it goes on and on until they decide that Vijay would stay at his home and Nandu would come visit him. That's how amazing the mind game goes. They don't even talk about it. They don't even communicate it to each other, but they just know that Vijay has to stay home and Nandu will come visit him. And that's how the climax goes. So hopefully I haven't given you much spoilers, but kindled enough interest for you to give this book a read. And it was truly amazing to see how much foresight Kamal had, like 34 years ago, in writing this novel. You can see how Aalavandhan came from this novel, and of course he couldn't adapt the book as it is. The book it is not dated. You can adapt it even today. It is not dated just because it came out in the 80s. No. I feel the reason that Kamal didn't adapt the book as it is into the movie is because of the similarities it had to his other previous and later movies. To be specific, I would say Tick Tick Tick, and then Sigapur Rojakal. They all have shades of Nandu's character in them. And Vijay's too in some way. So I feel that Kamal felt that this has already been done to some extent in Tamil cinema, and so he wanted to do something entirely different, and which he achieved. But here's my gripe with the movie. Some things that the movie didn't do as good as the novel did. In the novel, Nandu is a brilliant mind, out and out. He writes excellent poetry, and he plans every move of his meticulously, and it is a treat to read what goes into his mind. It is amazing. The movie Nandu is only smart and cunning and planning when the plot requires him to. In other instances, he is fine being a childish goof. that kind of a thing is not that great. You don't realize it when you watch the movie, but when you read the novel and come back to the movie, you realize it was two different characters that were written in places according to plot convenience. To elaborate this, you see Nandu, for the most part, after he escapes from the prison, acting on impulse. He kills on impulse. He goes to places on impulse. The only goal he has on mind is to kill Tejaswini. He's very single-tracked in that way. But you also see the brilliant side of Nandu when he escapes from the prison, and that's from the book. So that little part where he acts really calm, collected, and cool in the way that he escapes from the prison, that's Dhaayam Nandu. That's not Aalavandhan Nandu. That's Dhaayam Nandu doing his stuff. And that's how he is throughout the entire book. But in the film, once he escapes, he switches to this childish personality. Your typical psychopath, if you will. And that was what I felt could have been done a little bit differently. They should have committed entirely to Nandu being this big brute, or Nandu being this smarter than your average person, cunning, planning, devious person. But they went for somewhere in between, and after you read the book, you feel that the book Nandu is sort of better in many ways. He is deranged though. They're both deranged, but the book Nandu is far more deranged than the movie version too. And even the flashback is totally deranged and amazing in many ways. If you thought back in 2001, I remember that Aalavandhan was heavily censored even by the theater owners for some of the non-family friendly scenes, if you will, especially the bedroom scene with Kamal Hassan and Manisha Koirala, which looking back now is very tame. We have seen worse. But back then it didn't go well with your family audience, though it was rated U/A. So anyhow, but if those theater owners back then read the book before they watched the movie, I don't think they would have gone for that kind of censorship. Because the book, I tell you, is it doesn't it doesn't censor itself in any way. So that's Dhaayam versus Aalavandhan. Give it a read. And since you've been sitting here listening to me yapping away, I thought I might as well answer a few questions. I did get a lot of questions this time, but considering time and also some of those questions I have already answered in the past, I picked out only a few questions to answer. So forgive me if your question has not been answered. If it is really different, I would answer them in the future podcast. So don't worry about it. Unless it's a question that I've already answered in some form or other in the past, I will get your question eventually. So sorry about that. Let's start with the questions. I posted about the Q&A on my community page in YouTube. So we have a couple of questions from there. We have Sendil Kumar Balasubramanian, and he asks, what are the technical considerations to create humor on screen? Are there any specific styles to be followed? I see often most of the successful filmmakers do fail in emoting humor. Directions to learn this skill will be of great help. I don't think I'm the first person to say this, but humor is hard. How does it go? Comedy is serious business. I think that's how it goes. Humor is hard. So in my understanding, to create humor, timing is everything. So that's why they call it comic timing. So the way and timing is a big thing when it comes to art forms. My friends who do music, they see it in the tempo, in the beats. That's obvious. I see it in my editing. My editing is it's something called edit to the beat, but I don't actually put a music track below and edit my video essay to the beat. But I have a mental beat going on when I edit, so that I know how long each individual scene or each individual video bit I put should last before I cut to the next one. So there is a constant beat, and through practice, I've gotten to a point where once I've done editing my rough cut, all I need to do is lay an appropriate soundtrack, and it usually syncs to the beat changes in the soundtrack. If it doesn't, I will go back and alter it a little bit. But for the most part, I've learned to edit to a certain rhythm. I don't know if this is something all editors do. It is something that I picked up on my own, and I like doing it that way. So if you're an aspiring editor, here's a pointer. But coming back to humor, I feel that timing is everything. So to help explain this more with an example, Back to the Future, the movie, if you haven't watched it, is a great movie. I watch it once every year, all the 3 movies back to back. So Back to the Future started off with Michael J. Fox as the character Marty McFly. But unfortunately, due to his other commitments to a TV series, he was not able to take up that role. And so what happened was that the director and the producers, they found someone else to take over that role. And even though the guy they found was a brilliant actor, after a few weeks of shooting, they realized that he lacked the comic timing. He was a character actor, but he could not do the comic timing. There is a certain beat when you have to react, and then when you have to like lay back, and so it's like a dance between 2 or 3 characters that one has to finish, the other has to react on time, and then the other has to take that cue, and so on and so forth. It's a dance. So after a few weeks, the director Robert Zemeckis, he went to his producer Steven Spielberg and said that it's not going to work with this actor. We need to get Michael J. Fox back. And they made a deal with the TV series runner, and so Michael J. Fox was available for shooting every night for the movie. So you see how, but they already had spent a lot of money shooting with this other actor, but the producer and the director both realized that it's not going to work out unless you have the comic timing. And so they were willing to go back and scrap all that and spend all that money again just to get the right actor in the right role. So that's an example to just show how much timing is important. Hopefully I've answered your question, Senthil Kumar. The next question comes from Venkat Ramanan. You always say that Ghillie is one of the best commercial film. Can you briefly tell how it is the best and what elements makes it the best? Do I even have to explain? Oh boy, I love to look at the different reactions I get from people when they seriously ask me which movie I consider the best, and I tell them Ghillie. They're like, "Oh, how can you say Ghillie? I thought you were the elite." Oh, that is a new thing. I saw a review by It Is Prashant on Saamy Square. Apparently, elite, white, and thin people won't appreciate movies made for B and C centers. That's funny. We'll get back to that. Anyway, so they were like, "Oh, you should be part of the elite audience. How can you say Ghillie is the best movie?" I love Ghillie. Ghillie, I stand to my statement. Ghillie is the best commercial masala whatever movie there is, in my opinion. It had everything. And what makes it best, for one, nostalgia. Ghillie came out at a time when I finished my 10th exams. So right after the exam, this was like the first movie I got to see. So that, and also there is not a moment of dullness in that entire movie. Something just keeps happening, and the whole villain chasing the hero kind of cat and mouse game keeps you always on the edge of the seat. And speaking of the villain, should I even talk more? You have the best villain there is. I always say the best villain is the villain that can stand up and give a tough challenge to your hero. You have Vijay and then you have Prakash Raj, who were both powerful men, but you although you know that the hero is going to win at the end, you do know it's not going to be easy, because they have built up this Muthupandi character so much that he's able to kill anyone, and he's an able fighter, that you don't really know how this is going to go, and you're afraid, you're concerned about both the hero and heroine's safety. That's how you write a good villain. Now let's take the same combination, say in Villu. You had Vijay as the hero, Prakash Raj as the villain, but that film didn't work because the film built up the hero so much and the villain not so much, that you're not afraid of the villain. You're just waiting for the hero to come and kill him at the end. You know it's going to happen, and you know that it's going to be easy. Even Pokri, for that matter, they only show Prakash Raj towards the end, but even when he comes in, he's not this dreadful character that you're really afraid of, and he pees his pants seeing Vijay. Don't get me started. Anyway, so you have these amazing actors, but you see how the combination and the mix was just right in Ghillie. And then you had this. There is a good mix of comedy. Then you have a little bit of seriousness, and then it jumps back to action, and then you have a song. I know it has been made fun later that they keep following this pattern again and again. You have one comedy, one romance scene, one song, one fight, and then you rinse and repeat. No, but in Ghillie, it comes in the right beats. I'm going back to my timing thing again for some reason, but yeah, there is a certain beat to it. So just giving the audience enough to keep them interested, and then also you have this overarching story which keeps you at the edge of your seat, but you do take time to get away from all that chase and truly appreciate the characters just being with themselves. So I feel Ghillie is the best commercial film for all these reasons, and this is strictly my opinion, so hold your pitchforks. Sivam Manikam asks a short description for the need of gothic and neo-noir style of filmmaking in Tamil cinema. Also, I'm drawing these questions from both my community page, from Twitter, from Facebook. So, forgive me for not mentioning the source they are coming from. But yeah, so coming back to Shivam's question about the need for gothic and neo-noir style of filmmaking, I also saw a similar question there which asked, is Vikram Vedha a neo-noir style of film, which I don't feel it is. But for the need of gothic and neo-noir, I think it's a cool style to try and explore. For one thing, they are always so cool to see, the noir type lighting and the mystery kind stories that go with it. Gothic, I would say the only person that I've seen who did Gothic in an excellent way is Tim Burton, Hollywood director. And I would like to see someone else try and emulate that style, give the movie a certain kind of atmosphere. That is something I've been discovering about myself and this channel as I go along. I'm really drawn towards films that have a very original style of its own. What it does is that gives that film a certain feel that even if you see like one frame out of it, you know which film it is, or hear one musical cue, and it gives that film a certain characteristic that actually makes it exciting for me to edit it. So the best example for that is both Dhaayam and Aalavandhan. In Dhaayam, the film, it was a period piece, but it also had a certain way of, I would say, the color and also the look of the film. That kind of inspired me into deciding to go with Saket Ram's Room. So if you see the video, I actually color corrected the room to look more closely to how the film looked. So it had a certain feel to it, a certain things that you recognize it's from the movie. Like the painting of Gandhi on the wall. Everyone remembers that. So, and with Aalavandhan had its own psychedelic music. No one can forget that little tune. And then it also had a certain feel to it where you don't know if it's real or a hallucination, and that gave me the inspiration for how I want to edit this film. Fortunately, I had two versions of it, the Tamil and the Hindi versions, and some of the scenes were really different in which Kamal acted differently in different versions, and it was fun to overlap them, do a little bit of mindfuck, if you will. So I feel that a need for Gothic or neo-noise style, I feel that there is a need for a certain style for every film. It should have its own calling card, if you will, or characteristic that once you see it, you know it's this film. It helps me edit them when I make a video essay on them. So yeah. And then this is from Instagram. Vetri Visuals asks, do you read books on human psychology and books on philosophy? To answer this question, on all the other questions that asks me for book recommendations and what kind of books I read, books, question mark. Confession, I don't read a lot of books. With the amount of time I have between working at my lab and then coming back and working on video essays, I don't really get chances to dive into books, especially books on psychology and philosophy. So where do I get my knowledge from? I read papers. As a scientist, I'm required to read scientific papers published on peer-reviewed journals, and that's the same thing I follow for my video essays as well. I go and read scientific papers, which are quick read, get to the point, and that's how I build my knowledge on a certain subject. I read articles, I read scientific papers, and then if I know a certain expert in a field, I will go contact them and ask them specific questions to understand it more. So that's how I gain my knowledge. So sorry for anyone who has been asking me for book recommendations on even books on screenplay, books on direction and all that. Sorry guys, I'm not the book reading kind. But I have been listening to a lot of audiobooks recently. It started with Dhaayam. I really didn't have the time to study to read the book, and the way I read Tamil is really, really slow, which I'm working on. So I had a friend, my subtitler Vaishali. She made an audiobook by reading every chapter and sending it to me, which I'm really grateful for. And it was funny that I had to make her read all the scary stuff that Nandu does in his story. It was funny to see her read that with a straight face. But yeah, so then that spurred off this whole interest. Now I'm listening to the audiobook of Ponniyin Selvan, and soon I'll be listening to other audiobooks of Sujata's novels, which might or might not be part of my future video essays. Little hint, hint, wink, wink. So yeah, books. Don't, sorry guys, if you ask for recommendations, I have none. What else? Oh, here we go. This is from Twitter, I think. Yeah. Agnik asks, how do you see Tamil/Malayalam movies in comparison to Bollywood movies released in recent years? How small budget but intriguing Tamil Malayalam movies can have better reach in North India? And there were different flavors of this same question, like can you make a video on Kollywood versus the rest of Indian film industries? Also an analysis on respective audiences will be appreciated. This was from Kesavan. And also this also ties back to another question asked by Apurva, the girl who went to Chennai to hunt for Dhaayam. She asks, I would like to know your thoughts on cinematic liberty. Do you see it as an artistic license or an injustice to factual data for the sake of entertainment? So there's a reason I chose these three questions. My thoughts on Tamil/Malayalam films versus rest of North India, and my thoughts on cinematic liberty. So to tie back all these questions, there is a little scene in a Tamil film called Velithirai. I know I've told this to a couple of my friends before this. It's a favorite dialogue I would like to quote now and then. So, Prithviraj, your hardworking, aspiring director who follows all international films and Tarkovsky and Aronofsky and whatnot, and he tells Prakash Raj that according to those great directors, this is not how you act or how you react, and for which Prakash Raj goes on a tirade about how in their country, in the Western countries, if their mummies die, they can't cry because it's cold. In our land, in our country, when our amma dies, all we can do is bare our chest, beat it, and opari. So it sounds more romantic in the Tamil version, but you get the point. This is how, as a people, we are loud people. We react in a very boisterous, loud way. We don't do the restrained emotions that the Westerners do, and it made me think that so there is people are different, and there is a certain flavor, a certain way that we act in real life, and that's how our movies should be too. The best thing I love about Malayalam movies is this, and this might even come as a future video essay, hint hint again. So Malayalam movies, if you take a look at it, be it Mahesh and Pratikaram, Tondi Mudalam Dirsakshim, even Sudani from Nigeria, you have people who are normal. These are people you would see on the street as your neighbor, as your relative. They are normal people, and something offbeat, weird, or extraordinary happens to them, and that drives the story. But whatever is happening to them is not so out of place that you can't imagine yourself being in that situation. It is that relatable. It's that way of how you relate to those characters that makes these movies so heartwarming, so endearing, and timeless. So that is my theory on why Malayalam films work. And when Tamil films do the same, they stay in our memory too. And I don't see that in movies from Bollywood, if you will. They are too larger than life for me to relate to in any way. I'm not saying all Bollywood movies. There are really good ones. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying about. So yeah, that is that. And talking about cinematic liberty, it's this there's the kind of cinematic liberty when it comes to how you have your actors react to a certain situation, and how you show a certain event or real event on screen. And I think it all ties back to how relatable it is to your audience. I'm not talking about cinematic liberties of claiming that Singapore doesn't have GST and all that bullcrap. We're not talking about those kind of movies. I'm talking about cinematic liberties where you see normal people like us in this extraordinary situation. Take Mahesh and Pradikaram. A guy refuses to wear his slippers until he gets his revenge on the guy who beat him up. Or Tondi Mudalam, where you have a guy who steals a gold chain and swallows it. Or even Sudani from Nigeria, and so on and so forth. These are extraordinary conditions. And that's where the cinematic liberty comes in. But it is also so believable that it doesn't take you out of the movie. It is extraordinary, but you still believe that it can happen to anyone. That's the kind of cinematic liberty I would like to see in films. And with that, we have come to the end of this podcast. Sorry that this is longer than my previous one. I tend to go on a tirade when it comes to podcasts. I've had complaints from people saying that they only wish my video essays were this longer. Well, video essays I have to edit. This I don't. And I feel that this is more or less like a conversation between you guys and me. So before I leave, here's my thought on the little review that It Is Prashant gave, saying that Saamy Square is not a movie that white, elite, and thin people would enjoy. For your kind information, sir, I am from Kadalur, technically a B center, and I enjoyed watching Saamy. And I don't know if you listen to my podcast, but I feel that Ghillie is the best movie there is. So you know where my tastes lie according to your reviewer eyes. So, and I don't think there are movies that are specifically made for A, B, or C centers. A good movie is a good movie. It'll work no matter where. I've seen people clap their hands and enjoy either in Kadalur. It was released in Balaji Theatre. And this was the same crowd that enjoyed Ghillie with me. So don't categorize us based on that. And what is with white, elite, and thin people? I'm going to leave that at that and end this podcast. Thank you for listening, and please keep supporting the channel the way you have been all this time for this past 2 years. Thank you all for those wonderful questions, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.